Hi guys, welcome back. We're so excited that you're here. Today's episode is about how your emotional mask can fog your reality. And this is a perfect one, especially around Halloween. I just put a newsletter out around this topic and I thought, you know what? This is perfect to talk about right now.
It really is, because if you go out, you can remember going out as a kid, everybody has a mask on, a costume on. And when we have these masks on, we're going out as somebody else, either Chewbacca or Aladdin or somebody else that's not who we are, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about here is different situations that you put yourself in when you're around your family or when you're at your business or when you're out in public at Walmart or wherever you're at. Humans, all of us, we tend to put on a mask. We tend to be somebody different in each location that we're at.
Exactly. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why people get so excited about Halloween is they can be that different person.
Yes.
And I think that's the excitement around some people when they do theater or when they're, musicians and they're on stage. A lot of people that are interviewed, they're like, that's just my persona for that character, but that's not really who I am.
Right.
Even Jim Carrey, I love listening to him to talk now. A lot of people think that he sounds crazy, but I totally believe what he says. And he's like, Jim Carrey, like on the movie screen, is totally different than who I am as a person. Like that was someone that he could play up in a way, but that's not who he is.
Right, exactly. They seem to find like a part of who they are in each role that they take, but like you're saying, it's not the totality of who they are. So there's almost like a relief that... And I feel like, as you said it, Lindsay, the relief comes from the fact that we use so much energy to hold up these masks, no matter where we're at. So it's like when you go to do an acting role or you're an actress, it's like finally you could stop using all that energy to be something that you're not and put it into something that you're getting paid to do or that you're just doing for fun and you have an excuse to do it and you're not trying to hold up this perfect image. It's like, no, this is just the role that I'm playing here.
Exactly. And sometimes it can be draining, like Robin Williams, he had a smile on his face, he was bringing humor to other people, but he was dealing with internal struggles.
Right.
Exactly. He might have felt like when he went into public, he had to be that person still that he was on the movie screen. We don't know.
That's so true. That's so true. And it's like if he could have just been able to take off that mask, right? That he's okay and that everything's just funny all the time and connect with somebody. And maybe he did. And I feel like I heard parts of his story where he did just a little by little, but not all the way. And it's like if we could just live in this world, we could just take off everything and just be us, right? In that moment. And that's why I love our masterminds and coaching and everything that we do so much, because that's a space to where you just take off everything, right? You take off your glasses, you take off,
talk about this?
You take off all of the mask and everything, and then you're able to just there's a freeness in not having to defend something, right? Like defend yourself because you have a flaw. There's a freeness in being able to be okay with your flaws. And we're talking about this. It doesn't mean we're perfect at it, but the fact that we're aware of it is making us better at it. And I think that's the key, is to get better at this and to become aware that your mask is even on in the first place. It's like these sunglasses here. You're probably wondering why we're wearing these. Maybe you already know. But it's like after you wear your glasses, for those of you that wear eyeglasses, after a while you forget that they're even on. Yeah. After you wear your sunglasses, you forget that they're even on until you bring your attention to it. And you realize that, wow, the world looks so much different when I have them on. It's just like your mask, and we forget all the time.
Well, and some people wear sunglasses because they feel uncomfortable having vulnerable conversations or being in the presence of other people having real conversations, so they hide behind their sunglasses. I like to put on sunglasses, like sometimes when I'm not in the mood to socialize and I'm walking around, not just because of the sun, but other reasons. But if you've ever seen someone walk around in a house with sunglasses, that's an indicator that they don't feel comfortable with whatever conversation they have. Because I feel like it comes to a point where it's almost like you have to remove the glasses to get personal and see someone and look them in the eye. To
connect, right? To connect. The eyes are the window to the soul. And if we're all wearing masks, you could build friendships and it's like, oh, it's fun hanging out with them.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be deep, right? Think about your deep, meaningful relationships. It's because you're connecting at the deep level. It's because you and that person, no matter who it is, you shared something that's vulnerable. You connected, you became human. And that's when we connect deeply with people. And that's why I love this episode, is because if we're wearing masks all the time, we're losing that connection to not only people, but to spirit as well.
Yeah, and to yourself. Because if you are holding up that energy and you're acting one way, like social media, for example.
Yes.
I will never show up on social media if I'm in a crappy place.
Right.
You know, I might make a post after I went through something and post about the learning experience. But I will never be in the moment of sharing something really happy, like sharing a happy moment when I'm not happy.
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel authentic to me personally. Like, that just doesn't feel right. So when
I know that about you. I've watched you.
Yeah.
You share through inspiration.
Yeah, it's inspiration, it's learning. Sometimes I'm in pain and I might share something that is more like heartfelt, but it will never be like, oh, I'm happy right now, when I'm not.
Yeah.
You know? So, and there's times where we need to take a step back from social media. I remember when I had a beeper, that was like the best thing ever, because if you wanted to use a payphone to pick up the payphone and contact the person that paid you, you could do that, which I usually would. But it wasn't like you were attached to a cell phone and you had to be at everyone's beck and call. You know, we still don't have to be like that, but it takes a lot of energy to be on all the time. And that's why it's important to think about, like, what is our reality? What are we feeling? And how can we show up in the world in the space of removing the masks? And one of those things is going to be to take a step back from being out in public if you're not feeling it. Or the other option is showing up in reality and saying, you know what? I'm not doing fine. When someone says, how are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that great.
And it does take time to remove these masks, right? It does, and it's an effort and it's awareness. That's all this is just bringing this awareness to every single day. I can remember when one of the masks that I wore, beginning when I started to teach, even when I was doing my internships and all that, the mask that would always go on me, it felt like, oh, I'm a teacher, so I have to be this certain way. I have to be perfect. I have to be... And it's so stressful. That teacher mask in the public schools is a stressful mask to wear. And it's not something that you really choose to wear. It's like, that's part of the culture.
Exactly.
And that's what happens too.
Well, and I didn't realize how much of a teacher mask I was wearing, because I was being myself, but at the same time, I didn't know how much I was restricting myself outside of teaching until I stopped teaching in this public school system. When I went to go be a medium and do it full time, from part time to full time, I'm like, oh my God, I feel free. So sometimes with mediums, they think, oh, we have to be, you know, put ourselves in this high space, like we're nuns. But for me, I'm like, I went through that with teaching. Yeah. So when I got out of teaching,
you're already more prepared for it.
I'm like, I want to be like I was in college. So I'm like really vulnerable, talking about everything here, because I know what it feels like to not be like that, and I didn't know it until I got out of it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because then it's the same thing as mediumship, anything spiritual. When I started to become a coach and I quit teaching in the public schools, then another mask came on me to where I'm like, wait, what is a coach, right? Is it supposed to be this way? Is it Tony Robbins? Is it Wayne Dyer? Is it all these different people? And over time I realized it's just you. It's you being you, and that's been a challenging thing for me because of this mask that wants to go on. Yeah. I'm a coach, put me in a box. It's like, no, you can't put anybody in a box on anything. We're all so unique that as soon as a mask starts to come on, and they come on when you start to enter different industries in your career, they come on when you become a parent, they come on when you become an aunt and uncle, they come on as you get older and your parents and the family around you are I guess unconsciously forcing you to get married at a certain age and to have kids and to do the things that they think that's what life is supposed to be. That's a whole nother mask. And that's why this episode's so valuable, because it's easy to fall into one of these billions of masks that are out there. And the true freedom and beauty comes from you removing all of them and being able to just be you. And not only that, because I feel like even when you get to that state, the masks still come on at different times, being aware that they're on. And staying in tune with your energy throughout what you're doing. That way you know, oh, this energetic mask is starting to come over me right now. And as you have that awareness, it slowly dissipates, and that'll happen less and less over time.
Exactly. And the way that you're going to know if you have the mask on is you're going to feel completely drained, or you're going to feel this resistance, like this resentful feeling, like this agitation. That's a better word. You feel
stiff,
agitated.
Tight, like robotic.
Or you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. Why am I doing this? Why am I showing up like this?
Yeah.
Or so even like a couple of episodes ago, I don't even remember what episode it was, I was having a difficult time at that moment, and I actually said it. I could have easily not even mentioned it. But this podcast is about experiences, our personal experiences, and it's not easy being vulnerable. Like, you're on display. I have people messaging me saying, oh, how's this and that? I'm like, how do they know that? I'm like, whoops. I start to realize how much we really give away of our hearts on this podcast. And that's why, the people that actually recognize that and they see that side of things, I'm grateful for all of you, and I appreciate you, and we appreciate your messages, because it's not easy doing this. It would be easier for us to be behind the scenes and not show up as us and just sign up with a product name, or put someone else in front of the camera and talk about this sort of thing and say, okay, you're going to talk about coaching, you're going to talk about mediumship, or not even share our stories, just give tips.
Right, exactly, because we're here because we're pulled to internally. It's not because it's our natural thing. Like, we want to be here out in front, like Lindsay's saying, our natural thing. We'll both be on the beach or hiding in a cave or on a mountain, meditating, bike riding, like doing our thing, right? Like, still connecting deeply with people, because that's natural to us too, but not being in the public eye. Like, that was a thing I would always avoid. Like, I never liked attention growing up.
Yeah.
Even when I played basketball, like, I didn't like people coming like, oh, you had a great game. It was just like, oh, and it's one of those things. So it's like you're saying, Lindsay, this was a challenge for us just to do this podcast episode, and how this connects to the people listening and watching is when they go to do different challenges. I feel like when you're in that vulnerable state, like we were at the beginning, I feel like we're getting used to it now. It's been years doing this, but you're prone to start to wear a mask much easier when you are pulled to do something. You're out of your comfort zone, and the mask comes on a little bit easier there. So just stay aware of that as you're going after your instinct and going out of your comfort zone. Understand there's a million masks with everything.
Well, and I'm thinking of my psychic medium business students right now, and my mediumship students and our mastermind students. The moment they push themselves out of that comfort zone, that safety net of just like kind of playing small, and they start to, this is the new phrase, shine their light. Not a new phrase, but it's the going around phrase. And they start putting themselves out there. They're starting to make videos and be vulnerable. They're starting to share vulnerable things with people that they've never shared with other people before. Layers start to come off, and it feels good in the moment and scary. They put themselves out there, but then they want to hide back in their shell. And that's very common. So right when you put yourself out there, stay with it, even if you're moving slowly along that path, but don't go back in your shell.
Very true.
Stay open, keep the mask off, go through it, and it will become easier.
And it's interesting because as you're saying that, I'm thinking that it's also a process to where as you're putting yourself out there and you're vulnerable, now you're learning a whole new self-care process.
Yeah.
That you have to put together for yourself. So that way it's sustainable. So that way, like, you're putting yourself out there, you're vulnerable, but you're giving yourself enough alone time and taking care of your body and your thoughts.
And getting the support.
And getting the support from around you. And just so give yourself time with that to balance out all of that as you're doing new things. Because once you first start doing something, it's like all hell breaks loose. So you have to just go through it, keep going, and then put the pieces together and adjust. And just experiment. Yeah. Be willing to experiment with different strategies.
And ask yourself the question, what paradigms have I been sticking with? Like, what have I been locked into that's been in my history? Maybe it's connected to your family. Maybe you start to look at the family dynamic and you're like, oh my God, I'm living the same life as my parents right now, And if you want to, that's great. If you don't want to, think about it. Because it's very easy to get locked into this energy, this vortex of circles and going through the motions, and you don't even know that you're wearing the mask of the old masks, the masks of your parents, the masks of your relatives.
It's like, this mask feels comfortable. Well, yeah, it's going to, because you're used to it. Let me put it on.
Exactly. Think about
now
money.
You can't see shit.
Think about money paradigms. You know, what are your money stories? What masks are you wearing behind that?
Yeah.
If
you wear the mask of your family dynamic, most likely in this world you have broke money mindset, because majority of people in this world, they have a broke. So that's another mask right there.
Yeah.
You know,
we'll have to do a whole episode.
What money glasses are you wearing? Are you wearing poverty? Or are you wearing abundance? That's how you see your opportunities.
And then what about the stories that you're telling yourself? Like, we were just having a conversation about body image, Tony and I, and about, you know, everything around the physical body and exercise and, you know, really taking charge of your physical body. And what is your story about putting yourself out there? You know, think about all of these things, these stories that you're telling yourself, because there will be a mask that goes with the story. Mm-hmm. So think about what you truly want and who you are. And that's going to be really writing things out. So I hope this episode helped you.
Right. So that's a good question to ask too, just before we get off here, is what stories support this mask, and where did those stories come from?
Perfect way of putting it. That's important. Share with us. The more that you share, whether you're sharing in the YouTube comments or you're sharing on Facebook or Instagram, wherever it may be that you're listening from, iTunes, this is something, when you share, you're helping other people. This isn't just about us. This is about all of you. So share. It's going to move energy for you, but it's also going to help other people be seen too, knowing that they're not alone just by reading your comments. So we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you liked it, leave a 5-star review on iTunes, and remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel too.
If you can think of anyone else that would love this episode, share it with them right now on social media or email. And remember, getting results is a process of learning, applying, and reflecting. Stay consistent and continue to grow every day.